listening to the Jersey Guys Podcast, the show that talks about hard rock, heavy metal, AOR, and West Coast music. In-depth conversation and special guests are always on tap, so settle in and turn it up. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Mark.
Hey everybody, this is Mark Ballo from the Jersey Guys Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Tom Coyne, and today in the studio we've got a special co-host, Phil DiBenedetto. If you guys were following along or are following along to our podcast, you will know the name Phil DiBenedetto. He was our very first guest back last year when we started this podcast, and Phil, of course, was the owner of Zig Zag Record stores in Brooklyn and Staten Island, New York. And we thought we would have Phil in here today because our special guest today is Rick Ventura, from formerly of Riot, but currently of the band Riot Act. And so we thought Phil would come in and share some old stories, and let's get to it.
Hey, Rick, it's Tom.
Tom, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
All right.
I'm here with my co-host, Mark, and our special guest host from Brooklyn, somebody I think you're probably familiar with, and he's certainly familiar with you, Phil DiBenedetto from Zig Zag Records.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
We're going to hit you with a lot of 70s Brooklyn stuff.
70s Brooklyn, oh my goodness.
So stay on your toes because we're on our toes.
I think I'm going to fail.
Can we take you back to Brooklyn in the 70s?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time there.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up right off Flatbush Avenue and Avenue N.
So me and Tom were there. Of course, I was on Kings Highway, and then I worked in Zig Zag Records and later owned it. That was on Avenue U.
Yeah, I remember. Sure, I've been there.
And I was an early Riot fan. And I think, like you, I discovered Riot playing block parties in Marine Park.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I found Riot in my neighborhood, actually. Mark lives like 2 blocks away from me. And I remember running across them at a block party. Yeah, that was a big thing then in the 70s.
Yeah. And hanging out in the store and being heavy metal guys or metal guys in the early days, we were always reaching out for something new. And there was Rock City album, and we were just floored with that. And I was just taken aback because now all of a sudden it's a neighborhood band that representing us. So we had that immediate bond. And then I worked in the store. So and Guy would come in, and some of the guys would come in. So yeah, it was great. It was just amazing. So it was
cool.
It was like our band. We were growing up with the band.
Yeah, it was like that, in the music store. We used to go to King James Music, and they'd lend us equipment, and we were like, the neighborhood. And that was before I was in the band, but I became friends with Mark just because I ran into him at a block party, and then wound up just visiting him and just walking around the corner and stopping by and becoming friends with him. Probably knew them before. I mean, you knew Guy before when he was before Riot, right?
Did he sang in bands before? I remember For Shake's Sake. Does that ring a bell?
For Shake's Sake, sure.
Yeah.
I know the guitar player, Jimmy, yeah.
The Gearys, yes. We're going back now.
Oh, yeah. I remember them. Wow. I remember seeing them, sure.
So in those days, it was weird because we're in our 60s, but in those days, it was underground. It was really an underground scene.
Oh, sure.
And the thing about with Riot is they were there from the beginning. And as the popularity grew, they were right there. I mean, they were our band. They were right there. Should have taken off so much farther. But, a lot of people say it was a bad luck. But the guys went so far in such a short amount of time, right? So from some 75, they formed. Rock City comes out in 77. You come in at around, 79?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in 1980, you're touring with Black Sabbath, Sammy Hagar, play in England. I mean, that's
Yeah, it seems short. But yeah, I think it's when you look back at it. But I mean, Mark and Guy were working quite a while trying to get the right combination of people just to get Rock City happening. And yeah, everything Riot was doing was totally left field because, you know, we were coming out of disco and punk, you know, that's, I mean, Brooklyn was heavily,
absolutely. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, you know, there's a whole disco scene, and I mean, you had their disco sucks shirts on.
Yes, yes.
It was a funny period, you know, and here's Riot playing, you know, hard rock and free metal stuff. So Riot was really out of place, you know, really what was going on. But you know, there's guys like you, and there was a lot of fans of the band, you know, that dug the music, and it kept the band, you know, I guess going. But yeah, it's those first few years. I remember there was a lot of struggles just trying to get noticed and get somebody interested in the band. Yeah, I guess, you know, it's like 3 or 4 years for opening for Sabbath. Yeah, interesting.
So in retrospect, it was a show. I mean, probably back then it seemed like so long, and
I guess it seemed forever. Yeah,
right, hard fought battle. But we looking back at it today, I mean, it went so far in what we now think is a short amount of time.
Rick, if you could tell us how you actually came to come into the band on the second album. I know L.A. Kuvalis was the original second guitar player who got displaced, and you came into the band. Right. How did that all come about?
Well, you know, I knew all the guys. You know, I was friends with Jimmy, the bass player, Jimmy Iommi. I was in a band with him, and we were good friends. And you know, and I knew Mark. I was always over there. I mean, I would hang out with Mark. It's like 5 a.m. talking about guitars and gear and music. So we really bonded. When Lou was in the band, I was playing in like a Jersey cover band, and I'd always would stop by and always hanging out with Riot and Mark. And so when Lou was gone, I remember Jimmy saying, "Let's just get Rick," you know, and everybody just said yes, like the perfect replacement. You know, he knows the material, the sound of the band, and the guitar style, and it just, you know, it was just, I guess, the perfect replacement. So that's how that happened.
So at that point in time, you recorded the album Narita. If you could tell us a little bit about the recording process, the writing process. And
yeah, they had started working on material for Narita. Lou actually had some riffs on Narita. I don't know if he got credit for them. I don't recall, though. I think he was telling me he when we first got Riot Act together, he was telling me, you know, what riffs he did, and he didn't get credit for some of them. So some of the songs were written already, and so when I came in, we just rehearsed them and just started going into the studio, and it was my first time in the recording studio, so it was a little nerve-wracking at first. But then I got to, since most of the material was probably halfway done, I had contributed, what song was it? Waiting for the Taking. We co-wrote with Mark and Guy, and that was the only song I had part of in Narita. You know, I got to play guitar solos and the rhythm and guitar solos on practically most of the songs there, you know, Mark and I. So it's, you know, just getting my feet wet in the recording studio, and it was fun. I was excited as hell to be in the band, you know. I was like, wow, you know. So that was really, I remember spending countless hours in the city. We had a blast. It was just fun. It was just pure fun.
And where was the band at that point in time in terms of a live setting? What type of shows were you doing? Headlining, opening? What was the touring schedule?
We had gone to Texas because Texas radio station in San Antonio was playing us, and I remember the first time going there, we were treated like stars. I remember there was fans out waiting for us at the hotel and at the venue. It was like, wow, we were shocked. We didn't realize, because that's always been a stronghold for like this hard rock and metal music down there. And they really latched on to bands, you know. whenever there's a new band, they get excited. The first person to find a band, you turn your friends onto it. So that's what it was like. It just spread. It was such a buzz about the band. We get airplay. Trying to think from Rock City, what songs they were playing. Well, probably Rock City, obviously, and a few other tracks. But when we went there for Narita, it was like really an eye opener for all of us. We were like kind of shocked. The band has something here, and every show we were playing, we had played with AC/DC, we played with Molly Hatchet, and the band went over great. And the fans were really just hardcore. They just loved the band so much. So that was our first taste of touring and getting to see how Riot was going to evolve.
We had recently interviewed Roger Romeo from Legs Diamond, and they had a huge following in San Antonio, and he told us the same thing.
Yeah, I think we played with them. Yeah,
I think you did too. I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to say you did, but I thought you did also. Yeah.
Yeah, my memory is some stuff I don't even remember. People have to remind me, but I'm pretty sure we played with them. That sounds.
Legs Diamond, had a tremendous following there, as did Budgie from the UK.
Budgie, yeah.
UK kind of. San Antonio latched on to a lot of those type of bands, either from the UK or some of the East Coast,
definitely.
West Coast USA bands.
Definitely.
Rick, do you remember those early days in the clubs in Brooklyn? Zappas?
Oh, Zappas. I used to go to Zappas all the time. Oh, my God.
That was our place.
Zappas and Rock Palace.
That's right. Rock Palace, right? That's right. So I'll tell you how far back I go. Prior to you, do you remember that they did the video, the Riot Attacks? It was like a 3-song promo video. I was in that video in the crowd.
Are you kidding?
Wow. And I'm also in the My Father's Place video. I was there also.
Oh, wow.
Now, I would say
cool.
anybody listening to this to go back and watch that My Father's Place video. I mean, it is so great to this day. I could watch it and get chills. I mean, the performance was awesome. I mean, how do you feel when you go back and watch that?
Well, that was, I know the band was smoking on that show because we had just come off tour. So we flew up just to do that tour. So we were right in the middle of a tour. And when you're touring and you're playing like every other night or every night, the band is just so spot on. We just knew it was just, and playing, in our home turf. So it was like, of course we were going to just be right on the money. And it just showed, just because we were touring and we were just so in the zone,
You put on that video today and you can't stop watching. You have to watch it from the beginning to end. It's just so great.
It embodies early 80s hard rock in the East Coast.
Yeah.
It really does.
Riot at their best.
I've told people, Rick, if you want to get a feeling, especially younger people, unlike me and Phil, if you want to get a feel for what the New York or East Coast scene was for hard rock, watch that show, because it totally, right from the beginning of the intro and everything, the whole vibe embodied everything of early 80s hard rock on the East Coast.
You're right on with that.
Can I take it into a little Speranza?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you watch that video and the whole band is awesome beyond belief. And I said seeing Guy in the clubs and you guys played Donington, you guys played Port Vale, you toured Europe. So a lot of people say that Guy wasn't into it or was shy or wasn't the greatest front man. But when I watched those videos, granted he wasn't running around all over the place, but he seemed to be comfortable and he seemed to be enjoying himself. He seemed to be in control. So why do you think? But why did some people say that he wasn't into it?
I don't know. I never got that impression. I mean, you look at him on that video and like he's definitely full of energy.
Absolutely,
he was always full of energy. He always got the crowd going, and I mean, I never got that. Why people would say that.
Which leads me to the point of his leaving, and he leaves at the worst possible time because you were at the apex of the popularity.
Oh, my God. We were about to break big. We were about to break big.
and so there's a funny story. So right after he leaves, he comes to Zig Zag Records with Gina. I don't know if he was married by that time or engaged. So he comes to the store And me being the big fan that I was, well, I ripped into him. And I was
Oh, you
like,
did?
Guy,
Wow.
Guy, how could you possibly leave at this moment? I said, this whole scene is about to break. You're right there. You put all these years into it. Played England. You played
Right.
Donington. The albums are great. I mean, why? Why would you leave? And he just sort of poo-pooed me. Basically said that he wanted to start a family. He needed security. I was just, and I don't think he liked me after that because.
Wow.
but I'm thinking to myself, okay, we all grew up Italian in Brooklyn. Okay, he must have had pressure. He's going to get married. He must have had pressure from his family. He must have had pressure from her family. He must have had pressure from her, right?
Yeah, he probably had pressure from her. But it's like it's really a mystery because years later he wound up contacting Mark, and they got together and wrote some material. They would get together, so it never left him. I don't know if he left out of frustration of our management was really, really crappy, and they really controlled everything. And I felt maybe he felt like he was being controlled. We weren't making any money. No. Every tour we did, every record advance, it all went to the two producers. It went into their studio up their nose. Maybe it was a frustration with the business that never getting paid, and maybe figured, it's going to be like this for another few more years. I don't know. When you meet a girl and probably felt it was like, oh wow, they really both swept each other off their feet.
Rick, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Gina was the brother of
Jimmy Iommi?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Rick, I told you we were going to come prepared for this. I should have gave you a heads up.
Nobody's hitting you with this, Rick.
Cool.
Nobody's going to interview you with this stuff. Two guys from Brooklyn, from the 70s.
Know your stuff. Yeah, you definitely know your stuff. It was always a mystery to me, because like I said, years later he did get together with Mark. So I don't know. He left right. We were touring with Rush. We had just played Nassau Coliseum. Right.
Now, was it Nassau or Meadowlands that he left that? I think it was the Meadowlands or Nassau.
I don't know if it's. I thought it was Nassau.
Well, either one. Here's Tashaka. He's playing his hometown. This is the dream of every rock and roll kid growing up. Of course. And you decide to leave when you're playing the biggest not the Garden, but the second biggest venue in your hometown, and now you're going to say goodbye. That should have been the beginning, not the end.
Oh yeah, because when I played that, I mean, even my parents came to the gig.
Yeah, sure. And that's Jersey. That was Sandy Slavin from Morristown. That's his territory. So.
Yeah. It was just. I just remember being backstage in the dressing room, and we all of us at different times were talking to him. We would take turns and try to persuade him because we couldn't believe it was happening. And I remember there was one talk I had. It was just me and him. I just like, Guy, we worked so hard to get this far, and why? We were just trying to get answers, and we got nowhere. It was just he was done with it. He was just done with it.
So even as crushing as that was, you imagine even the fan. We were crushed. We were crushed as fans. But that's
sure, yeah. I mean, that's like when you lose a signature sound as a band, which Guy was so unique, and that's what gave Riot its unique sound was his vocals.
Especially the front man.
Yeah, of course. He had just had a unique sound.
So let me take it to this point. So here we are as fans, and I'm a traditionalist. Okay, don't break up the band, please, that I love. So here it is. This guy. One of my favorite singers leaves the band. Now, am I going to still like Riot? So
interesting.
So here comes Rhett Forrester, who I knew from the club scene. He played in a band called Rachel, and he was great. Mm-hmm. I used to see him, but am I going to accept him now in one of my favorite bands? Well, for a diehard to immediately take to the new lead singer and say this new album is great. that was something to be said for you guys, because you really
Right.
didn't, you really hardly missed a beat, because the next year, the next album comes out with Rhett, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
a long time after,
Right.
and you put out a great album.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that album was really good, and the fans. I mean, they must have been, wow, what's going on here? But we didn't throw Guy out of the band. He left. We had no choice.
Yeah. So what I'm saying,
Yeah.
from a fan's point of view, I'm saying to myself, I am not going to accept this. I knew the singer, and I put on the record, and I say, this is great. So
Yeah, I mean, it's still the music's still there,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's like if the music sucked and the singer sucked, that's a different story. But the music was still good. Rhett has his own persona, and
Yes.
I enjoyed Rhett. I like both periods of the band, So that's just the way it is. Some people prefer one over the other, some like both. I mean, it's like, AC/DC with Bon Scott or Brian Johnson or
Van Halen,
David Roth
yes,
or Sammy Hagar. It's like.
What was interesting, it was great, both of them, but it was a totally different dynamic, because let's face it, Rhett was a front man.
Oh yeah, he was totally like, the long
Charisma,
hair, the leather, and the southern accent. And yeah, he was the embodiment of a lead singer,
So it brought that whole new aspect. And then, great album. You get Rhett, who steps in and is accepted. And then now you have MTV, and you're getting the video played on MTV. So all is still going well, despite, right?
Right.
And then, and what happens then?
You tell me.
I was out there story, yes. Okay, then the record company, and things are changing. They want the flavor of the day. Am I correct? They probably want you to change. You get no support.
Yeah, we get no support. But also, our producers were very demanding on the record company.
Yes.
Very demanding. Like, you would think they produced like so many amazing hit albums by so many artists, and I think record companies didn't want to deal with them anymore. There's a lot of factors that came into play.
Just to back up a little bit, Rick, I had a couple of questions coming out of the third album into Rhett Forrester. How did you guys arrive on him? Was there an audition process? Was he a guy that you kind of had your eyes on? Was he
Yeah, we were checking out tapes. We were checking out videos. We saw him, and we saw a lot of guys, and club singers. There's only a few of them that stand out. But he just had command of a stage, So, and Mark immediately liked him. And the producers liked him, and we gave him a shot, and he just seemed to be the right guy. He just was very confident.
Oh, he was great. I mean, he had. We were just talking about this, me and Phil, before we went on the air tonight. I thought he was ahead of his time at that point in terms of frontmen. I didn't think there were that many frontmen that weren't in like at an established band that had the command, stage presence, overall look, vocal delivery, had that snarling delivery at times. He had a blues-based delivery. I didn't think there were that many frontmen, except for your Steven Tylers and, the guys that were really established. Dee Snider.
Oh, sure.
But he had that all intertwined in his delivery, and really nobody even knew who he was. He made his name with you guys.
Yeah, because like I said, he was in a club band, but he stood out. He definitely had something about him.
Absolutely.
That they could see could just transcend to a big stage, and he just had that quality about it. He just the way he carried himself, and he was like the epitome of the swagger.
Now, when he came in the band, I had wanted to ask you also, when he came in the band, were any of those songs or any of them demoed with the idea of Speranza being in the mix, or was it all written with Rhett Forrester and with the intent to be Rhett Forrester songs?
Yeah, I think they were geared toward that, because I had nothing at that point for Guy. I don't think Mark did. We tended to write for the upcoming albums, And I know Mark and we both like Rhett's style because we were blues-based guys. You know, Mark loved the blues, I loved the blues, and he liked singers like Paul Rogers. And I think Mark really liked writing for Rhett. And I know the songs that I wrote, Rhett really delivered them. So I had an easier time, I think, working with Rhett on my songs. And Mark enjoyed writing the songs with Rhett. I mean, you know, nothing against Guy. He liked writing the songs with Guy too. You know, we all did. Right. But I think just that style resonated with Mark.
Well, I found even with this record and the one after that we're going to talk about too, Born in America, some of the songs actually, at least to these years, had a Southern rock feel at times. Do you agree or am I off base?
You know, I haven't gone to those albums. I'm trying to remember some of the songs on them.
You should give them a listen. They're pretty damn good.
There's songs like Vigilante Killer, CIA, which is kind of heavy, you know.
Right.
There's some really heavier stuff. Then there's stuff that has, well, you know, that's from Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
He had that Southern rock style of singing on some of his songs. And that's what I liked about him, too. There was so many different facets of him. He could, you know, had like a snarling way of singing. He had a Southern way of singing. He had a very clean way of singing. There were a lot of facets to his vocals.
My recollection is always on stage with a bottle of Jack Daniels in his hand.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the rock and roll beverage.
And you got the feeling with Rhett that it wasn't like for show, that it was the real deal, which, you know, was put it over better. You know, there were certain guys that did that, you know, they were really, but like he had that whole vibe about him.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt, right? Whether it was real or not, you guarantee it was real, you know, because
right. Even if it wasn't, he was very convincing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to talk about the follow-up record, Born in America, where you changed labels and a little bit of your insight as to the writing process and your thoughts on that album.
I like some of the songs on it. It gets overlooked, you know. It's a lot of people just forget about it because it wasn't on Elektra anymore. I think we were on
Quality, and then Grand Slam, I think, picked it up after that.
So it was Quality. I don't know where I got Jet from.
Yeah, it was Quality, and then Grand Slam, I think, put it out on CD.
Yeah, Quality was Canadian.
Right.
Yeah, so, you know, things just, you know, when you're on Elektra and then all of a sudden you're no longer there, like we knew things were heading downhill. I met my girlfriend at the time, worked for Arista Records, and I remember meeting with her boss, who was a fan of the band.
Can you remember who that was? Was it Mike Bone?
Yeah. Oh wow, you're good.
Yes, I am.
That's why I brought him down here. He could fill in all the blanks that I don't have.
He signed the rods, and he was a nice guy. Yeah.
He liked Riot. You know, and I remember, he was, you know, saying, you know, your management's, they're screwing everything up for you. And I remember meeting Metallica at the Ritz when they were little kids before nobody knew who they were. And I met Cliff Bernstein, you know, who's like the big guy, Cliff Bernstein, you know. And I remember talking to him, and he liked Riot. And I remember he was talking to me. He goes, "You have to break away from those guys. You have to." It became. Everybody in the industry knew that they were bad news, you know. I remember him pointing to this couch. He goes, "See, these guys, they're going to be the next biggest thing." And he's like, these 5 little kids are there, and it's Metallica.
So then, Rick, what prevented you from at that time making that break?
Well, you know something? We had a big blowout. Mark and Guy, for some reason, they were like so tied. This is before Rhett. I mean, we were trying to break away from them right before Guy left the band, and continue with Rhett. But I don't know, man. Mark, for some reason, he felt obligated for what all they did for the band, and they put the money in. They got them somewhere, and they were just like, he was like brainwashed, I think. Because I remember Sandy and I and Kip, the 3 of us were going, we got to break away from these guys. They're ruining the band. It's going to all go to shit. And sure enough, that's what happened. Mark has made some very bad decisions. And that's really what us, because the rest of us wanted to really break away. I'm hearing it from people in the industry, and I don't know what was going on with Mark, And then when Born America was over, it was just like, the end is near.
I had heard you in other interviews say that you were surprised when you made an appearance at the New York show. What was it, Riot 5?
Mm-hmm. I was at that show.
And Japan, and how the reaction that people wanted to meet you and get your autograph. And
yeah, it was so weird. I was shocked. I remember my girlfriend was with me, and she was like, and couldn't believe it, and I couldn't believe it because I had, after I was out of Riot, just like, okay, it's over and that's it, But throughout the years, I would run into people. Oh, you were in Riot. Oh man, it was great. You guys should have been the biggest thing. And it always continued. You always read something, and you found out we influenced so many newer heavy metal bands. Then you watch that metal show and you see some of the guys wearing a Riot shirt, and it was just like, wow, At that BB King show, I was going to go there and surprise Mark, and then he's sick, and then they called me up out of clear blue sky. I get a call from guitarist Mike because we'd like to come, play a tune, and I was going, oh wow, I hadn't played a Riot song in 30 years, and it was like. It was just so weird, to be thrown into that. And I went there, and I think I did Swords of Tequila and Warrior, I think. And it was just like, wow. It's sort of like that's how all this kind of started up again.
My point was that was surprising to you, but for us guys, and especially me, who owned a record store for 40-something years and specialized in hard rock and heavy metal, it was no surprise to me because those albums were were top echelon of hard rock and heavy metal records, and all the hardcore guys knew that,
Yeah, it's funny.
So it was no surprise to us.
Yeah, see, right. You guys knew, and I would meet some people, and I'd hear all this, and I'd go, "Oh wow, I guess we're a bit more influential than I thought."
Absolutely, yes.
I wanted to ask you, Rick, what happened in between the band breaking up from the Born in America period to Thundersteel? Were you ever involved in that? What was?
I didn't. That was just the end of everything. I just vanished, and I put together a band. I was trying to get something together on my own.
So Reality didn't reach out to any original guy. That was a total new baby of his.
New. Yeah, he just he had hooked up with someone in San Antonio, the bass player, and they just took it into a total thrash direction, a very totally different direction. And towards the end of Riot, when I was in it, I was even saying to Mark, this is not, it's not Riot anymore. It's turning into something else. And Mark started to get into that more of the hardcore speed metal stuff, and that just wasn't my thing. And so then he continued the band and got new players and did the Thundersteel period. So it's a whole new sound and direction for him.
Now, Donnie Van Steren actually went back as far though as the Rhett Forrester period at some point. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, I think he somehow played with them. I don't know. He was originally a fan of the bands, and so Mark met him in San Antonio. So they might have played together because I've seen pictures of him with Rhett on stage. So
exactly, I have too.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you also is how did you get involved with the more recent period of Riot? Because I was a big fan of the Thundersteel period with Tony Moore and Mike Flint and Bobby, who's now a country western drummer.
Really?
He's George Strait's drummer.
You kidding?
He's got the biggest drum gig in all of country music. He's George Strait's drummer.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, for a while, for probably the better part of a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're all great players. I mean,
those guys were tremendous.
Mike Flint is a great guitar player. He's a great guy, and he actually plays on the bonus disc that we did. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question was, I don't know. I don't even know what the question was. I got sidetracked with Bobby playing for George Strait.
Yeah, right. Shocking. Yeah, you were mentioning all the guys.
How did you get more involved? Because I know you've done. I was at that BB King show. I think it was roughly 10 years ago. I had no idea you were going to come out and play. That show was actually was canceled at some point because Reality wasn't able to play, and then they put it back on. freezing cold night in January. I'll never forget. It was about 15 degrees out.
Yeah.
Right. And I had no idea you were going to appear with them. And you have had sort of a connection to this more recent lineup with Todd singing and most of the guys from the Thundersteel period. Are you somebody that obviously embellishes that whole period? Like you're part of that. You're supportive.
Oh, you know what's so funny? I really didn't pay a lot of attention to Mark at all for so many years. You know, it was really weird. I would hear snippets. I remember a friend of mine played. I forgot what incarnation of Riot, but Mark had covered an Al Di Meola song.
Right, because that was that. I skipped over an entire period because after Thundersteel, he kind of got rid of, and then he brought in Mike DeMeo as the singer,
right?
And he did about 10 years worth of records where he really did like a lot of Rainbow and Thin Lizzy type of stuff. He abolished the speed metal and kind of went back to the roots of a lot of Deep Purple, Thin Lizzy, and Rainbow with Mike DeMeo singing.
Right. Yeah, so I would every once in a while I hear somebody would play me something and I would go, oh wow, it's pretty good. I mean, Mark was always a great player, but I guess I just I just viewed that period that I was in, and I was just moving on. I was just playing various things. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I played in the blues band for a while, then doing all originals, and then I figured, wow, it's like, will ever be back, in the limelight or doing any kind of touring again? You sort of view it like, okay, wow, we had our shot and it didn't happen. And it's like, okay, on to something else. That's where my head was at. So when Mike Flintz called me up to come down to BB King's, it was like, I said, all right, I'll do it. And I was kind of nervous and excited at the same time. And then later on, they called me up to go to Japan, play the Loud Park Festival, and do the whole Fire Down Under album. And they paid me and everything. And so I'm saying to myself, something, Mark is gone, and for them to continue, they had to, reach out to some of the original members to help the band get the gig. From what I understand, they wouldn't have gotten that gig in Japan if they didn't get somebody from the original Riot. So that's how I was led to believe. Seems logical.
It added a lot of credibility to it. And like I said,
yeah,
I've always been a very accepting,
no
fan of Thundersteel and that whole period. But
right.
being part of it definitely added a lot of credibility.
So that's probably why that happened. So I was excited to do that. So now all of a sudden, like, wow, when we went to Japan, let me tell you something. That was unbelievable.
I know. I have the DVD.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was. It was great.
I remember after the show, we did a meet and greet, and there were lines of fans. It was just, I could not believe it. And they had Fire Down undershirts on. I mean, I still have videos and photos on my phone of that trip, how fanatical they were. I remember coming down in my hotel room one morning. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and I'm noticing a bunch of people, like maybe 7 or 8 people, and they're like in the distance, like looking at me and following me. And then one of them politely just said, "Oh, we have our Riot albums with us. Would you mind signing them?" And I was blown away. I was like, wow, And they all lined up, and it sort of like woke me up. And after that show, I actually thought they were going to ask me to join the band. I actually thought that, because I remember talking to some, I think their manager at the time or whoever was helping them, and they were talking about the fact that, right, it would give them more credibility to have somebody there or do that. But they're a very different band, and I'm a very different player.
Right.
So maybe that's why they didn't. But for some reason, I was saying to myself, what if they asked me to join? I don't know what I would have said. I didn't know what was going to happen after this. After this show, and was going to lead to something else. I just didn't know. So then I never heard from them. And then a few years later, we have the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame, where Riot's inducted. Eddie Trunk is the host, and and then this is like the third thing that happens now. And then I meet Lou at the airport, and he's going to it, and like we just like looked at each other, and go, wow, this is just so weird. And then it turns out Lou had actually gone to Japan with the Riot 5. He went on his own, actually,
Really?
and he played some songs with them. And then Lou and I appeared with them somewhere else in Brooklyn at some, I forgot where in Brooklyn. Was it Park
Oh, it was
Slope
the Brooklyn Bowl, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
Right. Lou and I played there. We met some people, and everybody was just getting so excited about seeing us play, So Lou would start calling me up. And he'd say, we should do something. I know I'd say, yeah, I'll think about it, because I was always like hesitant. It's like, to try to revive something that you did 30 years ago, fans are going to go, you guys either suck or you're just so skeptical about doing stuff like that. But after those shows, they went over really well, and everybody was, kind of excited, I guess, to see us play. After that heavy metal ceremony in California, on the flight home, Lou's looking at me and he's smiling, and I'm going, maybe we should do something. I think, finally, maybe we should do something. So that's really the genesis of Riot Act, how it just sort of happens,
The thing with Riot is there's two fanatical bases. There's the classic lineup that you were part of.
Yeah, that's the way.
The Thundersteel lineup, and I guess when they bring you in, it's kind of try to merge those two sounds and eras together for a fan base and make it more appealing.
Fans are fanatical. You got to fans. Oh, this is the real Riot. No, but these guys are really good. So I mean, there's something for everybody. It's like
right.
It's like with Deep Purple. Like personally, to me, Deep Purple's. There's no Deep Purple without Richie Blackmore.
No, we've always, to me, Richie Blackmore and John Lord were Deep Purple, and without one of them, it's shaky. Without both of them, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, there's always whatever band you're into. It's always exciting to see original member of a band.
Yes, I agree.
It's just nothing against any other bands. And it's, metal fans are really hardcore, and they're going to like, there's fans that like both periods. There's fans like one, some like the other. Fans get pissed off because, they continued as Riot, but Mark's not there. Mark was a major part of Riot. He formed the band. So, I could see fans going, well, they call themselves Riot 5.
They kind of differentiate. I've supported them all the way through because I was a huge fan of the Thundersteel period. And,
right.
I like Flint's and Donnie, and
great guy.
I've stayed with it, and they've always done it with a lot of tact and taste, and they've not tried to put it over as anything other than kind of a glorified tribute Thundersteel band. But when they brought you in, it all kind of opened up, I think, a lot of doors for them because it brought back the classic Speranza Mark Reality period.
It opened doors. Really, it opened doors for both, for both of us, actually. So it helped them. It helped me. So got looking at it like that.
Right.
So, fans are fans, and we can't, there's no, it's not a rivalry thing at all. It's just, it's two different bands. And my whole thing, with doing this Riot Act thing was not to be a Riot tribute band, because that's the last thing on earth I want to do. I've always written originals, and that's the whole concept of, even if I didn't get together with Lou, that's what I would have been doing, is writing originals. And when we got together with Riot Act and got our singer, Don Chafin, it was like I was showing him material, and he was just, coming out with lyrics, and it was like, wow, this was just meant to be. I finally found a singer that can put across the music I've been writing, So my whole thing was just like, okay, people, all right. So I was in Riot for many years, but I didn't want to do a tribute band. I wanted to do all original band. But it started off, since Lou and I together, the whole buzz was, wow, two of the original guys from Riot. So that was like a really big buzz, and everybody wanted to hear some of the songs. So that's why we originally did a 6-song EP. because promoters, they probably wonder, hey, can these guys still play? You
Right.
know, they want to know that there's something there. So that's why we wound up re-recording some of the old Riot stuff from that, the period what they call the classic period, I guess, it's Rock City, up to Fire Down the Restless Breed. I'm sure we would have touched on songs Restless Breed, but that's what we did, and that's how Riot Act really started, just going on the buzz of Lou and I playing together. And the funny thing is, like, we never played together, because I came in on the Narita, he was gone. We were always friendly towards each other, but we never played together. And when we started to play together, we got on so well, and it was just so much fun. Lou and I just had such a blast playing together.
And Rick, I'm the traditionalist, so to listen to the songs redone, I always have to say, well, what are they going to do? How could you beat the originals? But I must say, I totally enjoyed it. Done awesomely, and especially that you have an awesome vocalist and you stay true to the songs and just added a freshness to it. Totally into it. It was great.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
And the new songs, me and Tom are waiting for our CDs. We didn't get them yet. We both ordered them.
Haven't gotten them yet.
So we were only able to watch. We watched the 3 videos, which are great. So we're really excited, really happy.
Album. But, thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, we haven't. Both of us haven't got our albums yet, but we're waiting. We ordered them.
Did you order the import or the?
I ordered the domestic as soon as
the domestic. Yeah.
Maybe I would have been. Maybe I would have got it quicker if I got the import.
Yes, most of my friends got them. In fact, some of my friends just got them just like 2 days ago.
So maybe they next week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, wait till you hear the album. I think you get if you dig what you heard on the video.
Yeah, the videos are good. Yeah, really good.
Well, and I'll repeat myself because I'm the traditionalist to say, all right, we're gonna redo the songs. Do I really need to hear this? But it was great. It was great. So yeah, we love it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, to redo the stuff because you want to stay true to it. And our singer Don, he didn't know much about Riot. He really he knew Swords of Tequila, but he didn't know much about it. And when he started to hear the songs, he was like, wow, he started to really dig the songs, and he really liked Guy. And he goes, I want to give him, I want to respect his vocals and his lines and give tribute to him. And, we stayed true. It's the lead guitars, the solos are different because we figured we're not going to copy the solos, so solos are different. And it's a fresh, recording. It's a modern recording. So It sounds very powerful, it's because Rock City to me wasn't the greatest recording, but when you hear the songs now, it sounds like, if you listen to Warrior and stuff from the early album, it's just like, wow.
But it's a testament to the songs themselves written so many years ago.
Yep,
these songs, they stood the test of time.
They still resonate as good as they did 40 years ago.
Right. As Tom and I are big collectors and enthusiasts, we could say certain things we listened to and say, well, this didn't stand the test of time. With the Riot stuff, you could put it on now. Like I said, I still get goosebumps. So,
oh wow,
that's a testament to the quality of the band, really, and the songs. Still great today.
Thanks. Yep. Yeah, it was freaky because when I was in the control room, Don was doing his vocals, and I was guiding him because he would say, "How's this? How's this?" And it just took me back to being in the studio with Guy. I'm going, wow. I was telling him, I'm going, this is just too freaky because at times you sound like Guy, and it's just, and you're nailing it, and it was so weird for me. It was just.
Now, how did you find this singer? Because he's me personally. I'm not that familiar with him. How did you land him? Because he's terrific.
Yeah, he's really amazing. We were lucky. Lou and I were auditioning singers, and then a friend of his suggested this guy Don, and Lou knew who he was. In fact, our bass player Paul knew who he was. I had no idea who he was. He goes, yeah, he has a studio on Long Island. Goes, but he's so busy, he's doing stuff, I don't know if he would do it. So we had sent him three Riot songs. So this friend of Lou's, we got his number, we sent him 3 songs. Since Paul had worked, I think had did a session for him once, maybe, so he knew who he was. So Don agreed to check it out, and we went to the studio and we started playing, and it was like, oh my God, we just looked at each other. Don just looked at us, goes, wow, you guys sound amazing. And we just looked at him and said, wow, you sound amazing. And it was like an instant band. It was like one of those magic moments, you know?
I wanted to ask you also, Sandy Slavin, is he somebody that was ever in the mix, or was potentially would be in the mix of anything when you were first getting the Riot Act off the ground?
You know, the thought was there. The way this band came about, Lou had said, well, we need a band. And at the time, I was playing with Paul and Claudio, our bass player and drummer. So we were just doing covers, playing on the weekend, just to keep our chops going, just for the sake of playing. So I was playing with them for like a few years. So I said to Lou, you know, hey, let's check out Paul and Claudio. And so they learned the material, and we rehearsed in my house, and it just came together so quickly. So it was like, wow, instant band.
Right.
Then it was just a matter of, finding Don. So that's how it came about, but I was thinking of Sandy, and I was actually thinking of Jimmy too, but Sandy was, at the time, I think Sandy was in Arizona and Jimmy was in Florida, and everybody's older, everybody has jobs and doing things. Right. And I'm going, something, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to get off the ground, right?
Yeah, as much as it sounds so cool, it's never going to happen, and that's, we just proceeded with what was right here, because everybody was just so into it. Everybody lived close to each other. It was like, wow, let's just go with this. Yeah, it would have been cool, I mean, who knows what the future brings, but right now this is working, and it's just a good combination.
Rick, I have a very important question here. In the 70s, you're playing clubs in Brooklyn and Manhattan. You're in Mark's basement rehearsing. It's 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Did you go to Roll and Roaster to eat?
Oh my God. You're a trip, man.
I told you this was going to be a different type of interview.
You know how many times I would go to Roll and Roaster with my friends? Constantly.
It's still open.
It is. On Sheepshead Bay Road.
Because we all did, Rick. We all did.
I grew up in Gerritsen Beach. So Roll and Roaster was like three miles from me.
Is it still around? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still open.
It's still there. Yeah.
Same spot.
Somebody told me they went there a few years ago, but I didn't think it was still. Oh, that's amazing! Wow, that'd be a trip to go there. I have to go there now. I have to go there tomorrow.
And Closer was still open, but that wasn't open 24 hours. It's Brennan and Carr, and they're still open.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
I mean, there may be nothing else other than those two places that you'd recognize 40 years after the fact, but they're still there.
Oh, that's wild.
They're like the cockroaches in a nuclear fallout. They're still there.
I remember going there.
That's still there.
Their thing was you'd order the roast beef sandwich, and they gave you the broth, and you'd be able to dip the roast beef sandwich in the broth.
That's right. Wow.
I told you we're going to take you back.
Classic places, man. Wow. How cool.
Now, where did you buy your records early on?
Well, I remember going to Titus Oaks.
Titus Oaks, okay.
Flatbush.
Yes, that was his first one. Then he moved to Avenue. How about Corvettes?
Yeah.
Did you buy any records in Corvettes?
Oh, yeah, Corvettes.
We all did.
DJ Corvettes.
My most epic albums I bought in Corvettes.
Now, I'm really going to take you back. On Kings Highway.
And Alexander's, too.
Yes.
And that's right. And Kings Plaza Mall.
Do you remember Kings Highway Beihof's?
No. Beihof's?
Beihof's was a sporting goods store. But they also sold records.
Really?
I don't know that either.
I didn't know that.
It was about 14th Street and Kings Highway. And
okay. Yeah, I didn't go down there that often.
Joe Torre, who grew up in Marine Park, in his biography, he said the only job that he ever had besides baseball, he worked at Beihhoff Brothers on Kings Highway in Brooklyn.
How funny. How funny.
And they sold records there.
That is a weird combination.
Yes, right. Sporting goods and records, yes.
Records, right.
Did you ever venture into Gerritsen Beach at all?
I in fact, what did I? There was a theater. What was the name of the theater
The
there?
Graham Theater.
Right. We used to go see
They had the midnight
movies
shows.
there. The midnight shows. I remember seeing. Well, the big thing was Rocky Horror.
Rocky
but I
Horror. They
remember
had the Jimi Hendrix live at
Yep,
Maui.
that's what I.
We were probably
saw
there
Pink-
together.
I bet you. And I saw Pink Floyd.
And they had
Floyd
the
at Pompeii.
at Pompeii. That's right.
Did they have Led Zeppelin song Rage the Same?
No,
Oh.
this was before. This was even before that. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going to that theater. Yep, quite a few times.
The Graham
Yep.
Theater. Yeah, that's where I grew up. Yeah, it's quite a neighborhood.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Gerritsen Beach. And if you hung out in
Very
Gerritsen
cool.
Beach and hung out at all the bars, you were known as a beach rat. That was
okay. Gotcha.
So
Well,
That's wild.
Rick, hey, this is Mark. I'm jumping in because I just been sitting here the whole night listening to all you guys and big smile on my face going down memory lane.
big smile on his
Cool.
face is because he's about 15 years younger than the rest of us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I said, when this episode came up and Tom was able to get Phil to come in, I said, hey, I'm gonna sit by the side there and I'm gonna listen to this one. So
Oh,
this was pretty cool. It was a good interview. So what's going on currently with Riot Act? You guys gonna be playing some shows?
yeah. We're what is it? August. The end of August, we're heading to England and Spain, and I think it's the end of September. Actually, most of September, October, we're going to be playing the States.
Oh, that's great.
All over the States, yeah. So, yeah, that's coming up. So, we're really kind of super excited to play since we haven't done a gig. The last time we played together was 2020 at the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame when we played there with Lou. We played Rock City and Swords of Tequila. Eddie Trunk introduced the band, and he was sitting on the side watching with his mouth open. He was like, he loved it. He couldn't believe how good Don was. We walked off stage. He goes, man, he said, the band's great. He goes, I want to hear more old Riot songs. And so that was like, wow, Eddie likes us. So we were kind of excited about that. And but that's the only time we played together.
Oh, wow.
Because then the pandemic hit and Lou passed away. And we didn't play for months. In fact, I was after Lou passed away, I was saying to myself, this is just not meant to be, and I don't think I want to do this, and just call it quits. I didn't think I'd pick up the guitar for like months, and then we got, we just said to each other, this is just too good of a band to just abandon, and Lou would have wanted us to keep going, and all of us, we had just a lot of music in us to get out there. So that's what we did during the whole pandemic, just putting together the album, is finishing the bonus disc. I had to finish all the guitar work on the bonus disc. Lou got some, I think he's on most of it. Just a few tracks he didn't finish, so I finished those. So we haven't played live, so we're kind of freaking out. It's been so long. I can't imagine what it's like to play.
My first thought, you said you're going to have to go over and play Europe first. Like, here we go again. It's like 40 years ago. They got to go over to the pond first. So they get they get the respect there, and then they'll come back to the States. What's wrong with us here?
That's funny, I know. That's how it turned out. It's just turned out that the person that's handling us got us the gigs in England, so that's what's happening first. And then we're coming here. We're coming here with Raven in September.
Oh, wow.
Are there dates announced for the U.S. yet?
I don't think they're officially announced, but we got. They showed us the cities. We're pretty much covering everything from east to west coast, even Canada.
Are you doing New York, New Jersey area?
I know we're doing New York. I don't know where in New York, but New York was on the calendar. Yeah, there's definitely some East Coast dates.
Raven usually plays in the clubs in Williamsburg. I've seen them there a couple of times in recent years. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe that's what we're doing. I have no idea. It was just anytime a gig came up, it was either canceled due to the pandemic, and so it was really hard to get things going with the way it was in Europe. Just not a very pleasant scene.
Is there a website, Rick, where people can keep up to date on Riot Act?
Yeah, RiotActBand.com.
riotactband.com. Very good. Well, Rick, hey, Phil, Tom, we all appreciate this. Everybody, Rick Ventura from Riot Act, check out the brand new album, just released, last week? Closer to the Flame.
Yeah, June 15th, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody check that out. We appreciate the talk, Rick.
Yeah, it was a blast talking to you guys. It really
Thanks very
was.
much, Rick. It was a lot of fun. It was even more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
No, it was really cool. I mean, you guys really know your stuff and history, and all the little Brooklyn stops that we all made.
That's right. So we've been there from almost day one. So we really appreciate the music. We love the music. We love you, and wish you the best.
Yeah, let me know how you like the album. I'm really curious when you get it.
I'll reach out to you. I
So
definitely
good.
will.
Reach out to me. Yeah, sure. Please do. Please do.
And wherever you're playing, I'll make sure I'm there in the area.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's nice talking to you.
Same here. Take care, Rick.
Yeah, let me know.
All right.
Take
Keep
care.
in touch. Bye.
Great. Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, this is Mark from the Jersey Guys podcast. So we just talked with Rick Ventura from the band Riot Act and, of course, formerly from Riot. Tom, Phil, we got everybody in the studio here, all three of us. So how do you think everything went there, Tom?
As good as I could have expected. I listened to some of the interviews that he's recently done, and while they weren't bad, I kind of figured that when me and Phil, who both grew up in Brooklyn at the same time that Rick did and were fans of the band from the beginning, that we'd add a little bit more flavor to this interview, and I think we added quite a bit of flavor to it.
Yeah, no, I think that I just sat here. I knew right from the start when, you talked about having Rick as a guest, and I wasn't, just maybe because of my age, I didn't grow up on Riot, but, I know you did, and I know, of course, Phil did. So, Phil, how do you feel about how the interview went?
I think it went great, and I thought, like I said, Tom said, we brought a different perspective because basically we grew up with the band, especially me. I knew them before, and Rick first found out about Riot at a block party, and that's exactly how I discovered them. So
Oh, wow.
we're going back,
Yeah.
and we could relate all the old Brooklyn stories, which I think he appreciated. So I think it went very well.
Yeah, that was definitely cool. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I sat here and I just kind of sat on the sidelines tonight and listened to you guys go at it. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I think that was a real good interview. It was definitely unique, definitely different, I think, than anything we've done before. Right, Tom?
Yeah, I like the idea of having guests in the studio. Maybe Phil will come back more, but
He's sitting
put
here
him
and
on
I
the
don't
spot
know.
here. Is,
Yeah, come on. We had a good time. The first
Give us some
episode was
feedback
great,
as to
and
what you want.
this one was good. So anyway, yeah, I think this was a good one. So but we'll be back with you guys soon with a brand new episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and talk at you later.